Everyone at the family gathering burst into laughter when Chloe Whitman called her brother cheap. What none of them knew was that just a few days earlier, that same man had quietly stopped her from losing everything. Ryan Whitman was the kind of person people often overlooked at family events. He worked as a warehouse operations manager for a distribution company in Phoenix. His job was stable, his life was simple. No luxury cars, no extravagant vacations posted all over social media. To many people, Ryan seemed overly cautious. Chloe, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. Her social media was filled with photos from upscale resorts, expensive dinners, and the latest designer purchases. Family members looked at those pictures and naturally assumed Chloe was doing well. No one knew the truth behind those images. No one knew that for years, whenever an overdue bill appeared, Ryan was always the first person she called. Rent payments, car loans, credit card balances. Money kept leaving his account as if it were the most natural thing in the world. At first, Ryan believed he was simply helping family, but over time, that help slowly became a responsibility nobody had ever asked whether he wanted to carry. The strangest part was that his family always described him as dependable. It sounded like a compliment. Until Ryan realized that being dependable often meant people automatically assumed he would always be there to clean up someone else's mistakes. Then came the night that changed everything. During a family dinner, while everyone was chatting and laughing, one of their relatives asked Chloe whether she had found a cheaper apartment yet. Chloe laughed. She shrugged and pointed toward Ryan. "Why would I move? My brother always finds a way to fix everything." The entire table laughed. Then she added something that instantly changed the atmosphere. "Ryan is more obsessed with tracking every dollar than anyone I've ever met." This time the laughter was even louder. Ryan remained silent. He looked around the table. Not a single person spoke up. Not a single person mentioned all the times he had stepped in to solve his sister's problems. And in that moment, something inside him quietly changed. After that dinner, Ryan didn't argue with anyone. He didn't call Chloe to confront her. He didn't post anything online. He didn't tell relatives about everything he had done for her over the years. On the surface, everything looked exactly the same. But one thing had changed. Ryan stopped solving problems that were never his to solve. The car insurance payment came due. He didn't send the money. A credit card bill arrived. He didn't step in. Then, one late evening, a familiar message appeared on his phone. "I just need to borrow a little money. I'll pay you back as soon as I get my commission." Ryan stared at the screen for a long time. Then, for the first time in years, he replied with a single short sentence. "I can't help this time." There was no response for several minutes. When the next message finally appeared, the tone had changed. Colder. Sharper. More irritated. But Ryan didn't change his mind. Over the following weeks, Chloe began feeling pressure she had never truly faced before. Debt collection calls became more frequent. Late fees continued to grow. Meanwhile, her social media remained unchanged. The same perfect smiles. The same expensive meals. The same confident posts about success. No one could see the stack of unpaid bills piling up inside her apartment. No one except Ryan. Then their mother started calling. At first, the conversations were gentle. "How are you doing? Is work going well?" But within minutes, every call returned to the same subject. Chloe was struggling. She was under a lot of stress. Maybe he should help her one more time. Ryan listened quietly every time. What hurt him wasn't the request itself. What hurt was that no one had ever asked how many times he had already helped before. In everyone's eyes, Chloe was still the one who needed saving. Ryan was simply the one expected to carry a little more. But this time was different. For the first time in years, Ryan let go. And deep down, he knew that sooner or later, the truth his family had ignored for so long would finally come into the light. The moment the truth finally exploded began with what seemed like an ordinary family dinner. The tension in the dining room was already noticeable the moment Chloe walked in. She barely looked at Ryan. Throughout the meal, she complained non-stop about work, difficult clients, and the pressure weighing heavily on her life. Then suddenly, she slammed her fork down onto the table. Everything started falling apart when certain people changed. The room instantly fell silent. Chloe's eyes locked onto Ryan. He knew exactly who she was talking about. Their mother let out a quiet sigh. It was the kind of sigh that suggested she had hoped her children would finally make peace. But Chloe wasn't finished. "You always make people feel guilty for needing help." For the first time in months, Ryan spoke. His voice was so calm that it caught everyone by surprise. "I never made you feel guilty." He paused. "I just stopped paying your bills." The entire table froze. At that exact moment, Chloe's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and immediately declined the call. A few seconds later, it rang again. This time, their mother spoke up. "You should answer it." Reluctantly, Chloe stepped into the hallway. Everyone could still hear her voice echoing from a distance. At first, she sounded annoyed, then concerned, then terrified. When she returned to the dining room, all the color had drained from her face. Her apartment management company had just issued a final notice. If the balance wasn't paid by the end of the week, the case would be forwarded to their legal department. No one spoke. Then one relative quietly asked the question everyone was thinking. How much does Chloe actually owe? For the first time, Ryan told them everything. The rent payments, the utility bills, the times he had stepped in to save his sister from financial disaster. He didn't exaggerate. He didn't accuse her. He simply told the truth. Their mother sat speechless. She looked at Ryan as though she had suddenly realized something she had overlooked for years. Ryan left the house that night, while the heavy silence still lingered behind him. He didn't feel victorious. He wasn't happy. Instead, he felt a strange sense of relief, like someone who had finally set down a burden he had carried for far too long. And for the first time in years, the weight of someone else's life was no longer resting on his shoulders.